Oh, gee, my computer. Can you still hear me?
Yep.
Okay, because my computer, your recording didn't sit very well with my computer. It's all frozen now.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. Very interesting. Let me sort that out. Oh wow.
While we're waiting for Christoph, my kids told me a riddle on the weekend. Why do noses run and feet stink? Or feet smell, I think was the thing. Okay. It's all in the delivery, isn't it?
Yeah. Don't know. Damn, my whole thing is totally buggered. Don't mind me when I'm cursing at my.
No, that's all right.
You sound like me, Christoph, when I'm trying to drive huges.
Yeah, it's just. You know what? I'll restart and I'll join you back in 2 minutes. If that's all right. Sorry.
That's fine. Hey,
Yeah, okay.
Kim, while I've got you then, this person, Naomi, that you're bringing on, what's her background? You said she can do some GIS stuff.
Yeah, so her background is she is a university lecturer in environmental sciences, has a PhD, which involved doing GIS. So it's been a little while since she's done it, but she's looking to get back up to speed and very keen to be involved in this.
Does she like looking at photos?
I'm sure she would love to.
I thought we might broach that subject tomorrow when we're doing our onboarding. Like,
yeah.
And is your idea that she'd be an additional Kim so that you handle Traprock onboardings?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. And how does she talk farmer? Do you know?
Well, let's talk to her tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's a very good communicator.
All right. Cool. While we're talking communication, Banks, Andy, thank you for giving us that NAB stuff. And in Duncan's absence, I actually talked to Lockie Dunstan, the valuer who signed off on his valuation. And he said that for the Suncorp thing, the first step will be getting in touch with the local agent and asking for a hard copy of the valuation so that we can see what they used for their analysis. And then
sorry, can you say that again? Sorry, who
Lockie said to get in touch with, because Lockie was the signatory, but the actual valuer was somebody in Warwick or Toowoomba. And he said Duncan needs to get back in touch with that person and ask for a copy of the valuation and the method that they used. And then what we would need to do is show whether it impacted on that valuation formula. They would normally have to do another report fresh if it's over 3 months since that previous valuation. And he said, but, if that's going to be expensive, give me a call. But the first port of call is to get a copy of that valuation.
Isn't that what we have?
I think
for Duncan's place?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and so that, having a read through that, there's an assumption of $1,000 a hectare and $1,500 a hectare for the grazing, for the wooded grazing area, which based on other sales, it's not well explained, but it's high relative to other recent sales. Duncan, you might have some further, fill that out. But they referred to two recent sales. One was at $600 a hectare, another one was just under 1,000. And they kind of said, well, due to scale, we can assume that there's 1,000 and 1,500. I think 1,500 hectare was with a smaller block. Does that mean anything to you,
Andy?
To me,
Sorry,
I guess so. I'd have to have a look at the figures, but the big valuation in that I thought was the water and the land that was usable, the arable land, would have put the value up the most. And I thought they were using a figure of, I can't remember now, but it was an industry standard figure for good arable land for fruit or veg with water, with enough water on it, and that really bumped the value up. So I thought the majority of it would have been linked to that.
So given the bit I was focused on was the avoided clearing bit, which was the non-cultivated land, and
Yep.
there's a term, is it TLW or something? So it's treated, watered. I can't remember what the other one, maybe it was TFW.
Yeah.
But there was so it's kind of saying this is the base value of the land, assuming without any improvements for the non-cultivated bit. And that was the bit that, because that in terms of the avoided clearing, that would be the bit that you're putting, a project over that the bank needs to sign off on. You could make a really good argument that it should have no material difference, basically, because because you can still graze it.
Yeah.
No, I agree with
the-
Rowan. There should be no material difference because he's not actually grazing at the moment and has no plans to in the future either.
Yeah, the valuation assumes it is like there is some sort of grazing. I can't remember the term, but it's something, it's grazing woodland or something.
Mm.
So I think that one of the issues is if the project or if it's a 25-year permanence and the money cuts out after 15 years, correct me if I'm wrong, there's a 9-year gap in there or something with no income. So if you sell, if you're forced to sell after 15 years when the income dries up, the people that are buying it are buying the legacy of having to maintain it and whatever that is. And I think that's would be an issue for the valuers. Because like if a situation, if I was buying land and it was tied up and I couldn't graze it, say, for 9 years, and I was getting no money out of it to compensate it, I'd discount the value of the property.
Mm.
In the model, we'd actually smooth those cash flows for exactly that reason, because the LRF, the funding stops after 15 years, and to cover the costs at the tail end, we'd actually gone we'll take some of that and set it aside for those costs.
Yep.
Christoph, you there, mate? Do you want to share screen if it's not going to break your...
Sorry, I was on mute. Yes. Just give me a minute because I just loaded the layer and now I don't know where I put it. I've got too many there. Where the hell is it? Ah, there we go. I put it on one place. Yep. Okay, got it. I'll share screen now.
just on a side
Yeah.
issue there while you're doing that, Christoph, is that the property that Ray Lord manages, the Paul Martin property over there, like it was really some really hard country. A lot of it was pulled and raked, and cleared. And I'm just thinking, like, if there was fair money for that biodiversity of the allowing it to regenerate, there'd have to be like 1,000 hectares there of that potential for them. And like, if you're saying it's worth 250 to 300 bucks a hectare a year, it would change the equation of well, the way they look at it. They're going to make more out of that than running sheep. So, be interesting. Have I got it right that that's sort of the figure you're talking?
Well, I don't know. I think that it'll be the restoring from cleared to woodland will be worth 5 times as much as protecting, like maybe more. But the costs of fencing and the costs of grazing taken out, I think, are around $150 to $200 a hectare per year because of the, cost of fencing mostly. And so the opportunity cost pricing must be between 250 and 3. Yeah. But I haven't even tried yet to put in 5-yearly cycles, and we haven't built the financial model for the LRF project yet. But yeah,
Wardy, that's 250. That's 250 to 300 before cost.
sorry.
Is that? That's 250 to 300 before costs.
Yeah,
Before
exactly.
costs,
Because then you'd have to pay for the fence, or the farmer's expectation is that they've got fencing and a loss on the grazing capacity for 5 months of the first 5 years.
Yeah. No, you're spot on there. So at the moment, I mean, clearly we haven't tested it, but my rule of thumb at the moment, looking at anything, is take that figure before costs and then divide by 2, so you get a 50% rate, and then that seems to be giving a better idea of what you're actually bringing.
Awesome. Thanks, Danny. Okay, Christoph, what are we looking at?
So the blue is Cat B.
Yep.
The sort of turquoise blue is the file that you just sent.
Yep.
The sort of electric blue ones are the one that you sent earlier, Andy, your walks. And
that's old. This is old data, so it's not.
So
that's not current.
Take that out. I'm going. So, and that is, and the red was one I had identified based on the pictures as one CEA, and the green is the other CEA. So the interesting thing, so this area there, I don't know if you can see my mouse, matches quite well. And I think we should take Andy's walk rather than my, from the sky mapping.
Yep.
Now, one question, Andy, is why have you? I had all that area as potential based on the images, the satellite images from the sky. Why did you exclude that from that a little bit?
I haven't. I said you're looking at old data there. There's more modern data, more recent.
Than the light blue.
Yeah, there's a whole.
Okay.
Christoph, that's concern to me because as I'm looking in his twin, Andy's twin. Sorry, I'll show you what I mean. Oh, piss off, bar. When we looked at his assets for walked 1 and no, walk 2. That was his wiggly bit. but it seems to have only shown that, like it's not pulled in all of these 4 orange things in
Yeah.
your light blue. It's only taken in
Yeah,
one or
exactly.
2 of them.
And this is the problem we had the other day that we were talking about, because it only seems to bring in the largest polygon in that download.
Oh, okay.
So,
Yeah, or the most recent.
Yes.
so these are all the polygons as geometric, but you're saying when you download the KML file, it's only giving you the most recent polygon?
Yep.
Because there's another one, right? And
Yep.
there's another one. I saw it written somewhere. Okay.
How did we solve that, Kim? How did we do that?
I think we actually separated them all out and didn't
Yeah.
put them down
Think
one
we
at a
went-
time, because
Yeah, you're right.
the combination of polygons is confusing the system.
Yeah. The other thing you can do, Christoph, or try, which I have a memory of, it may have been successful, is actually open those KMLs in Google Earth Pro as a full file, and then there's sub branches of the KML file that are the
Yes,
polys.
that's right. Yep.
And then you
We
can
did do
save
that,
them
Danny, didn't we?
individually from there. So you just use that as
And it's
a kind of
Staging. As a
as an
staging
intro
somehow.
step.
Okay.
Save them all individually and then import them into QGIS individually.
Francis.
It's a time-consuming workaround to work around.
Well, that's no fun. How do we get the twin to export to GIS software in a not stupid way going forward?
That is something for maybe the director of Region Digital to solve.
Yeah, you might need
Um,
to take that back to the developer.
The alternative is I could create a CSV file from the text that's in the box, the polygon text, and then create the layer in QGIS from a CSV polygon. I've never done it.
Oh, that's actually a good idea. What do you?
Yeah.
I think you can download
You can
into
convert it.
CSV.
But
That's on the
I'll just
condition
open.
that the import process isn't the same. The workflow isn't the same, because I would imagine if the workflow is the same to write the CSV,
But
we'll only get the most recent policy.
I've just opened the file that you've sent in Google Earth, Wari, and it shows the same as in my QGIS. It looks like it's not in the KML.
Christoph, can you drill down in there?
What do you mean drill down?
Inside the KML, can you drill down inside that file?
Hang on.
Is there an internal file in there?
I'll share screen. That's what I've done that's my Google Earth. I'll just click on the KML and it'll open in Google Earth by default.
Christoph, where the KML is with the tick in the box, there's a little arrow there next to it. If you can just click on that,
Which
and you'll
one
see
was
that the extra files should be there.
Yeah, so they're coming in as like sub branches, Christoph.
Yeah, see there they are.
So it looks as though the most recent poly is in the digital twin becomes the parent in the structure, and then everything else are children of that parent.
Yeah.
Which means when importing it into QGIS, it only takes that top polygon.
Yeah. But I still have the 3 that I can see. There's no additional child in there.
No, there's not.
See, there's not. There's only the 3, and the other one is a bit further down into RHB, the little triangle at the bottom. But
that sucks.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? Let's not solve that now once we've got everybody. I'll try to grab the polygons from the description and see whether that works from a CSV.
Good that we've got this on record. Oh well, we had the last session on record too, but
Yeah.
it'd be good to
I've got
document
access.
the metrics.
I've got access.
But
Yeah, I've
let
got
me
access
know
to
when-
Andy's twin, so I can do that. All right. I'll try to do that. Cool. Oh well, not that cool, but so what did you want to do next if we can't have that? Ah, what is gone?
I think ultimately we're trying to identify the full cam, the CEAs for full cam. Yep. So we can't do.
But we know we don't need the CEA for full cam because full cam works on a per hectare basis. So the only thing that we would need from the CEA is the actual area. So task one that we don't need to complete now, but definitely do, is to finally import finally import your KMLs Andy into QGIS, clip them to CAD-B, which they seem to be, at least the two that I could see seem to be clipped already. Clip them to CAD-B and again overlay them on the historical file so that we can prove that they actually map the cycle. Okay, put that task aside for the moment because the systems are letting us down. And we can try on full cam then.
Were you needing something from me? I just had a delivery.
No. We just can't solve the export KML from the twin now. I'm going to try one thing, which might work. Otherwise, it'll be Kim. Maybe I'll give you a call to try to fiddle with the twin or Wadi to get those files out. How did you get them in though, Andy?
Yeah, Andy,
How
what
did
are you
into your
recording?
twin? Because it might be simpler to grab them from
Data
where
log
you put them into the twin.
Yeah. Originally, I just walked track with the logger on the phone. I uploaded them into the Dig Twin, and then from there, I just used the polygon tool to polygon out the walk tracks, and then deleted the walk tracks out. So that's the way I was told the best way of doing it, and that's what I did. But that's
So
yeah.
do you still have those original data log files from your phone?
Yeah, I've got them on. Yep, I've got them. So
Maybe if you could email those to Christoph.
Email them to me
the ones that are
as a backup.
that I took off my phone.
Yeah. If you could, email those from the phone direct to Christoph, that will actually solve the problem, I think.
and might bypass the twin fucking around with them.
No, they'll still need polygonizing, so there's still a workflow there.
Yeah, I can
exactly.
polygonize them. I can polygonize them in QGIS as a function to do that, but as you know, it gives you a polygon with very tiny little sides. I'd much rather grab them from the twin if I can, but so I'll try the CSV approach first from that description box, and if that doesn't work, well, back to your tracks from your phone, Andy.
Okay.
Just while we're here, Christoph, the other way to do that in the digital twin might be to duplicate the asset. So if there's just however many areas are in there, duplicate it that many times and then just delete them one by one, so they just become individual assets as individual polygons, and then export them out that way.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea because they're not that many. There's probably 2 or 3 additional from the one that
So CEA.
If there's 100, that's probably not the way to go.
No, there's only.
It's pretty easy.
And either you must have like 5 different polygons in that asset, right?
I'm just sending just sending you the walk tracks now.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
So what was that last question, Christoph?
You had like 5 polygons in this
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in CEA 1.
Yeah.
And then if we go to CEA 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
6. Okay, so both methods. Thanks, Danny. That's a good suggestion. Either the CSV option or the deleting them one by one in the twin after duplication should do the trick. Or backup plan is to use what you just sent and either the original walk tracks. Okay, cool. We can solve that. Oh, by the way, I wanted to mention something as well. For the forest cover, I'll see if they've published the latest, the Woody 2022, because they're updated usually around May. So they may have published it now. I'll have to double check that. Because if they have, that might solve us a problem.
That might solve the $10,000 requirement as well.
Exactly. You'll see my bill for solving that problem for you. It's going to be
Yeah, we should talk about that too,
$999,000.
Gordy.
Yeah.
Because I wonder that's the cost for polygonizing as well. But I just wonder whether you need data farming to do that polygonizing, or whether we can do that internally, and so just pay for the data. So we just get one big raster of the entire area, of the target area, and then that can be part of the individual assessment of each property for each holder. We can actually polygon those pretty easily.
So that makes a lot of sense to me. So what I think you're saying is we don't need the polygons of the foliage protection areas per farm broken down by data farming. We just need the really high res image, and then you or Kim sitting shoulder to shoulder or on Zoom with the farmer can start to polygon what's forested, what's unforested, and what of that unforested could be returned in this next 5-year period, the following 5-year period, the third 5-year. Yeah.
That's right. So it takes pretty much exactly the same workflow as I've created for the slats data.
Yep.
It's just working with a different target, a different data source, which will be the data farming source. So we've already
totally agree, Danny. Totally agree.
Yeah. So we've already got the boundaries, and then we just flip the raster accordingly to each boundary, polygonize what we need to polygonize through the data, get rid of what we don't need, find those targets, and make that assessment as I'm doing currently. So it's exactly the same workflow. It's just with a more current data set.
Okay. Well, maybe I can just ask them, or can I get you to drop me the wording, because we want to pay what's fair for the image, but we don't want to pay for extraneous data work that you've then got to go over the top of anyway.
Yeah, well, that's right. We end up doubling up.
Yeah.
Because we've got to do it anyway, so we may as well work with that source. Okay. So yeah, I'll put something together and we can have a chat to Tim about that.
Great. And then whether slats comes out would be great, and if slats doesn't come out, we'll copy paste your wording into an email and we'll get back from Tim pretty quickly that image, and we can keep the process going.
Yeah, great.
All right.
The other thing I wanted to mention about that, just because we are talking about looking for recruitment, is that resolution won't give us any kind of natural recruitment or the ability to identify that, but that's a conversation down the line, I think.
My understanding, Danny, was that we should be able to see recruitment because it's down to 50 centimetres.
Nah, no chance. Nah, if we're looking for recruitment, there is no chance that with a 50 centimetre pixel that we can find that.
Right. Okay.
So if you think about half a metre, a canopy at 2 metres is about one metre or thereabout. So we're relying on trying to find data just over one, or trying to find subjects or an individual just over a metre high, but at at a proper reflectance rate or a reliable reflectance rate with a 50 centimeter resolution. I just don't think we'll be able to do it for anything above, anything under 1.5 meters reliably.
I mean, that all makes sense. I think the proof will be in 5 years' time, if you've got a point A, comparing it to point B in 5 years' time and saying, well, this is now forested, right? And clearly it should be able to be identifiable at that point. Otherwise, it's not 20% more foliage or more foliage cover.
At that point, definitely, yeah. But for looking for current recruits or for early recruitment, it won't give us the data that we might need for that.
Yeah.
So if we're looking at HIR in some areas, that's not going to be sufficient data.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
we're not talking HIR with the LRF project. We're talking about the same management conditions as in.
No, I just noted that we were. Yeah, I just noted that we were talking about that earlier, or I was in that conversation. So earlier this morning. So I just wanted to point that out with that data source. We would need to find a good workflow to be able to better understand that if we're
All right. Can anyone else hear Danny? Or is he gone?
No, it's breaking up.
No, it's breaking up. I'm glad it's not me for once.
All right.
I'll drop out for about 15 minutes, but I'll rejoin when I can.
Okay. Thanks, Danny. Anybody, like, we might get ourselves an early mark here. I think, Rowan, we need to work on a financial model for the for Duncan and Andy, but we kind of need the full cam outputs, and we need a third financial model around this biodiversity project for the LRF.
Yeah, I'm not quite not quite understanding what the biodiversity project is across the 12 farms. I can see that there's I think what we're talking, from my understanding, what we're talking about is an avoided clearing project on Duncan and Andy's. We're not including an HIR because the assumption is that cost of fencing is prohibitive unless we can do some planting. Is that correct?
Yep. That's for the ERF project. Yep.
Right. So
better to think of it as two projects. The ERF project is a prerequisite to doing the LRF project, but it's going to be as simple as we can make it. 2 CEAs on Rosemary Hill based on they're separated by 250 meters, and 2 CEAs on Mallow because they've got different clearing cycles. But a total of 4 CEAs will be put up by us as a proponent for an ARF project. Concurrently with the ARF.
Stop on that. Stop on that.
Yep.
All right. So avoided clearing projects, but we're not including HIR projects, and we're not including HIR for what reason?
It will take us like more money and be probably harder to financially justify, given what we'd previously found. The fencing and audit costs for the HIR ruled it marginal, you know.
The audit costs are different for the HIR and the avoided clearing?
Yeah.
You mean the audit cost would be different? Yeah, you have one set of audits for avoided clearing and one set of audit for HIR. I'm a little bit in your camp, Ron. If we can find scale, then let's do it. But Ward is right. From just Andy's place, just your place, Andy, I'll just calculate. I'll just looked at it whilst we were talking. It's about 40 hectares. 40 hectares of HIR would be just really, really marginal. It'll generate IQs, but then it'll be gobbled up into
So
audit.
the areas that are on the ditch twin, there's CEA1 is 64.5 hectares and CEA2 is 24.75 hectares. So that's the areas that I have mapped on in the ditch twin on those CEAs.
And the balance in the middle would be about, very roughly, I just looked at it, would be about 40 hectares, and the rest is Cat B.
Yeah.
Yeah. So AC makes sense. HRR would be marginal. I'd love to find some HRR in there. Rowan, you're right. That my understanding was that that's the reason why we were excluding it at this stage. It's scale.
And then the assumption then is that we've now got a carbon project, but we'd then have a second LRF project, and we'd define that project area as being all 12 farms between Pikedale and Sundown. And we would say, we're looking at over those 12 farms, what was the pre-clearing extent that the farmers have the right to clear? So pre-clearing times Cat X, and you go, okay, that's the potential area. In that potential area, some of it is already forested, and it may not, because of evidence, be provable for avoided clearing. If it is provable for avoided clearing, we might add that to as an additional ARF project, but after the 2nd of June, right? If it's not provable, but it's forested, then we just want to protect that as a biodiversity asset within the Traprock region. And we should pay the farmers to protect that, with the main proviso being they don't chop it or clear it. You know, they can thin it and manage it, but they can't clear it. And then
So the bit that doesn't seem to work there is the adding that as an avoided clearing after the fact, because we need to be able to identify it before the 3rd of June in order for those, and otherwise we'll bump up against additionality that we've got them funded into a project where they're protecting it, and they won't be able to do an avoided clearing on it thereafter.
bugger. So on those 12 farms, if they have got a eligible, provable, avoided clearing, by putting them in the biodiversity project with the LRF, they're no longer additional.
You're on mute, Christoph.
Thank you. Yeah, good catch, Rowan, because you wouldn't have the right to clear anymore. And you need to have, for an avoided clearing, you need to have the right to clear, damn it. So if we have a suspicion of AC, what do? Do we exclude that from the ARF project? Gee, doing all that before the 2nd of June is...
Yeah. I know on Donna Gabbett's property, she claims she has got an AC project, so we could investigate adding her in.
She seems a likely candidate because she's been banging about it, but we have the same problem of forest cover at her place. Maybe the solution to that is to use the high-res imagery to resolve that forest problem, that forest cover. But then we have to prove the cycles as well. Geesh, there's not a lot of time because, you know, as you know, Andy, the cycles take a lot of time.
Yeah.
Well, don't we just factor that in maybe to the costs of protecting forested land? Is we're assuming that a portion of those 12 farms might have been avoided clearing eligible. We don't have that evidence at the 2nd of June, but we want to price it in. And that makes it okay for the farmers because they're not having to get an avoided clearing, but they're picking up the potential of that avoided clearing in their biodiversity.
It's either that or the LRF Tom's default position at the presentation was, if you're not ready to go, you wait for the next time round.
Yeah.
But then Andy and because we don't know when that fourth round will be, but we do know that we need to be within clearing windows, and there'll be other clearing windows that people will come into. You'll always run into people being included and excluded based on the cadence of the clearing cycles.
That's true.
But maybe, but we should do Andy and Duncan anyway, right? Or otherwise we're going to fall out of the windows. Maybe a midway house is to, because of what I was saying, is that you can only stretch the LRF price per ACCU so far. Maybe when we look at it, there's too much LRF areas in those 12 farms. And if we carve out the potential ACs, we only do the LRF based on Andy and Duncan for all those, or a restricted part of the other 12 farms. That gives us the ability next year to prove cycles and
that makes sense. So if we looked at outside of Mallow,
much anyway.
Christoph, you went quiet at my end, so I started speaking, but could you repeat yourself?
Yeah, sorry. I was saying maybe the midway house is to carve out the potential AC, and that would leave us enough LRF space to stack on Andy and Duncan's ACCUs anyway. See what I mean? Because if we try to bring all the LRF areas on top of those ACCUs, that might be too stretched for Tom. I don't know, but if we can, that might be a way of managing both.
Well, who's between you and Duncan, Andy? Like, what farms are between you two? If we just did that instead of going,
there's quite a few.
Yeah, so basically all the southern ones are basically between us. Yeah, I know Pete Rymers is south a little bit, but yeah, Finlay, Tom's. Yeah, they're all between Pete Rymers. A lot of Pete's country's between us. Yeah.
So what are you frozen?
No,
He's thinking.
I was thinking.
I think we just factor it in, because like there isn't an avoided clearing project there or an HIR project there yet, but there is a potential to do a biodiversity project where the protection of the existing forest factors in that potential for avoided clearing. And it says, well, you're not going to try and find the cadence over the next 15 years for any of those farms where that clearing cycle is. You're pricing that into the biodiversity price for protecting it. And you're foregoing that carbon price potential on those farms. And it's being reflected in the LRF's biodiversity payment to those farmers. And likewise, if you're doing this in the unforested area that converts to forested area, if every 5 years you're able to measure definitively the extension improvement of woodland across any of those 12 farms, those farmers should be rewarded for the actual hectares of extended woodland that they've created in the previous 5 years, and then do those measurements twice more at 10 years and 15 years out. And that was going to be my suggestion of annual payments for protection, and then 3 lots of 5-year payments for reclaimed or converted or whatever you call it.
The idea of getting some the funding for something that's 5 years out that's contingent on something today, and something that's 10 years out that's contingent on 2 prior 5 years, I reckon that's going to be difficult. I reckon you're asking a lot of the LRF to kind of
Okay, so
So-
do you just do one cycle? What's going to happen in the next 5 years, and it's a 5-year LRF project, not a 15-year LRF project?
25-year, but that's the thing. It's a 25-year project with a 5-year period.
But the
Um,
LRF
but-
project, apart from being stapled to an ARF project, which is 25 years, there's no requirement for it to be 25 years. It can be a 5-year ARF project or a 6-year ARF project, right? Like it doesn't have to be longer like that. It doesn't have
It's
to
a
be
25-year commitment under the LRF. So they tie it to the carbon project. You only get paid for 15, but like, is that right? Yep. Christoph, you've got a 25-year commitment because it's being tied to the carbon project.
No, your LRF commitment expires at the end of the project. After that, you're free to do whatever you want, but your
Right.
ERF commitment remains. So if it's not in the CEA, you've got absolutely no commitment afterwards.
Right.
So we're just talking about a 6-year project, really, right? Like where we're going for what's protected today and foregoing an avoided clearing project in the next 5 years, and what can we regenerate in the next 5 years? And LRF, will you pay based on the assumption that we can do a 20-meter sealing in around all of the existing forest to make it new forest? And if we do, that's going to be paid at a price that recognizes the opportunity cost of the grazing and the cost of the fencing, and it won't be eligible for HIR because you're already doing that process. So add a bit on there. So our financial model for the LRF project isn't really, like, apart from being attached to the ERF project, it's a different financial model, different years, different hectares. There's not a question, it's sort of a statement.
Could work. Could work. But it'll push the price per hectare really, really high if you want to factor in the fact that you're actually foregoing all that, even just for 5 years. Because you're foregoing all possibility of HIR then. And you might miss windows for AC and stuff like that. Yeah. And that's going to be the judgment call, whether we're trying to do that will disqualify us out of LRF. I have no idea.
Feels to me like it's a project on Duncan and Andy's place, and next year we're coming back with the full project once we've got it scoped up. That feels like it just feels like we just don't have enough information.
So
I've been thinking the same thing, Rowan.
Well, I'd love to be able to go, we're doing a biodiversity project over these 12 months. It just doesn't feel like we're ready for it.
Well, narrative wise, we're just getting the top and the tail with the two brothers, and we're filling in the middle next year. But we do have some data for Mallow and Rosemary Hill that Danny did, not just across the carbon area, but across the whole of Mallow. Let me just find it for us. Danny, are you still online, or did you?
What would be good would be to, like for us to come up with the 12 and then go to the LRF and go, look, we'd like to be able to do the 12. We're just not in a position to, see whether there's any flexibility around this cutoff date, or is that just wishful thinking?
No, I actually
Probably.
think that it would be useful to put up Duncan and Andy as our test case and, you know, put the CEAs in the way that we've done them, and if possible, add the biodiversity at a broader scale. Because that will help inform what we do with the other landholders.
It's all reasonable.
I'm back just to
Or-
answer your question, Wardy.
Or,
Okay, Danny.
or to add on to what Kim was saying, try maybe the obvious ones or the most likely candidates in two directions. One which would be what other AC we can prove, maybe done as the most likely low-hanging fruit to be able to do between the 2nd of June. And in the other direction is to say what are the ones that are obviously not candidate, and then we include them in the LRF project because we know that we're not foregoing anything in there.
Yeah, and the
Just
one
keep-
that comes to mind is potentially the Insul's property, because that was really difficult to identify any clearing cycles and other things on their place. So they've got some really good forested areas.
All right. So you kind of look at each property and kind of identify the woody, the cleared, sort of potential. So against the previous extent. So you look at the potential and you go, right, on Andy's place, we've got enough detail to be able to kind of say this is the avoided clearing, this is the biodiversity only, or HIR if we're ever able to do it. But like, we can define it clearly on Andy's property. On these others, we can't. But we can talk to this is the potential, and then ask. We could either go ask the question. This is the bigger project, as in here's the 12 properties. This is the biodiversity project that we want to do across the whole thing. We're not in a position to put it all up today, unless, of course, you're happy for us to identify the avoided clearing opportunities or the HIR opportunities on these other properties. So you put the whole project up, but you go like, but these ones aren't actually included unless you can find a way to actually allow us to do the work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Andy.
ultimate project area, round 3 project area is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
With the question mark as to we want to do the whole bit now, but like it might take us another 6 months to form it up. But yeah.
Let's just go back to Danny's previous work here. So yellow is this cleared and green is forested. Now we're talking where my cursor is, that's the 400 acres that would be the project area for the CEAs. But there's all this other green and yellow. Black, by the way, is Cap B, right? There's all this other green and yellow on Mallow. Green, I'm arguing per hectare, they should get like, Mallow should get $50 a hectare for that. And this yellow, any of that he can turn green between now and 5 years' time when the next regeneration photo takes place. And if we can show that green is boxgum grassy woodlands or forest woodlands, then I think he should get like $250, $300 a hectare for any that he's converted from yellow to green in 5 years' time. That's the thesis of the LRF project. And what we can do when we get high res from, or raster from Tim Neal, is Danny and I've got the information for the project area, the REM B, what is CADX versus pre-European clearing. And we can do a yellow and green for every one of the 12 or 13 farms. It's about an hour per farm is the workflow. But we could have that potential project definitely identified by the 2nd of June. And then if we're saying, okay, well, we can only do Duncan and Andy, for the ERF, and that stretching of the accus might mean that it's bounded for this project, but this is the prototype, unless you want us to make a big actual landscape improvement, in which case we need you to give us some latitude to finish the others. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, that's the addition to that with the LRF is really talking up the co-benefits of that threatened ecosystem, the wildlife, and all of those things. And community participation is also one that they're really interested in this time. So that the community is very engaged in it. And I think we can show that given the turnout we had at the Traprock meeting in March, that the engagement of the community is there.
Yeah.
One other question that then is, like, for the restoration part, again, the other 10 farmers mightn't be ready to go, but like for the restoration, that could be HIR, yeah? Because like to going forward, we might need some carbon in order for the LRF to do it again.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Oh, we definitely will.
Yeah.
We will. Absolutely.
And there'll be no problem with getting that. There's other opportunities out there. There's a lot of country that's been pulled and raked in the past that'll have clearing history, and
Yeah.
there's a fair bit of interest coming out there. I'm starting to feel more phone calls all the time. So I reckon if you're given 12 months before the next round to bring in a new carbon CEAs and put more LRF over the top of them, I think that's probably the time frame. Maybe, butt this one in if you want to get something happening this time. Just butt it into Duncan and I, and maybe one other property with a good biodiversity if they're ready to go.
What would be nice is if we could layer in some project, some costs related to bringing in the others, so that there's this work to be done over the next 12 months.
$10,000 per farmer.
Did you
like?
Did you say on Andy's point, Kim? Did you say the insoles would be one that we could safely include without foregoing a potential?
I think so. Danny and I can have a quick look at that and go through some of the other imagery that's available, just to check that there is not an avoid clearing project there, but I'm fairly confident there's not.
Okay.
That one insoles will be very similar to what Donna has. It's the same owner owned it and same piecemeal approach to clearing. So there was 40 hectares here and 5 up there, and a lot of timber, iron bark was taken out of there. And if that constitutes a clearing event, well, that's it. But to document it from photos and that would be impossible. So it all have to be written history, and to get it out of the previous owner is going to be difficult. Like I leased that country from 1999 till 2016, so I know the history there, but it's only a verbal history. And I don't think Rodney and Barry would sign up to a carbon project. I think they'll be more interested in the biodiversity project.
Yeah.
No. So maybe that's when we say.
Can I ask?
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead then.
No, I just want to ask, and I apologise that I've been so fragmented in this conversation, ongoing conversations. But has the group, has the project been looked at in the context of the nature repair market at all?
No, because we don't know what that looks like.
No, we don't. But there's some better assumptions that we can start to make. One of which is, from my understanding, and Christoph, I'm not sure if you've looked at it a little more closely. I haven't had a chance to sit down with it and really go through it yet. But my understanding is that there is provision for nature repair market projects to run in parallel with carbon projects on the same footprint, which opens up a whole range of other possibilities around, particularly around the discussion that sounds like you were just having.
Yeah. I think there's full of potential, but unless there's new information that's come up in the last 2 weeks, what I've looked at was really open, and you could interpret that the way you like. So yeah.
Yeah, if we're talking 12 months, like developing projects or the next round of projects over 12 months, I have no doubt by the end of May we're going to have a lot more information around that. With the federal budget being
definitely by September even we should know a lot better about what they intend to do.
So I heard Anthony Benny talk on this last week, and I think the clearest statement is what they're trying to do is to get a clear framework in place today, and regulation will come in like 12, 18 months, 2 years. So they're talking about putting the framework in place to make it, to bring it together, but it's all voluntary. There's no statement. The minister hasn't said anything about putting any kind of requirement on folk to buy under the nature repair market. So it'll all be voluntary to begin with, but like get the framework in place. And the implication is that somewhere down the track, once the clarity comes around the international kind of considerations, that's when the government is more likely to kind of bring in the regulatory, you now must buy under the kind of safeguard mechanism kind of approach.
I also had a chat with Rachel Gallagher yesterday from Hawkesbury, and she's in charge of the methods committee. So you can propose methods under the nature repair market, like ERF methods. And she's the technical and science officer for the committee that determining what methods fit under nature repair and don't. So we could definitely then potentially, if we thought it had value to a buyer, say, oh, we've got this method. It's called regenerating box gum grassy woodlands in southeast Queensland, and put forward that we would fence it and avoid grazing and, do these things. And, but yeah, you'd have to make sure that if the LRF aren't buying, that somebody else is going to buy the freaking certificate that you've got a method for.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the biggest issue is going to be how they value those certificates as well.
Well, that's to Rowan's point, like 2 years or 18 months before they're going to carry a stick and make people buy it. All right.
Okay. Do you want to go through full cam now?
Have you got the ability to?
Oh, absolutely.
Sure.
If you're continuing to record, I'll drop out here and pick up the recording later.
Thanks, Kim.
Thank you. See you.
That's it. Only if you're interested. I thought Rowan wanted to do that.
No, definitely, Christoph. I'd love to see it again. Like I can't log into my laptop at the moment. My Microsoft bloody stupid. I was just trying to do it before.
Okay.
Apple, so much easier.
And you'll see it's not difficult at all. It's a little bit tedious, but it's not very long. All right, so I'll screen share. That's useful then. Oops, sorry, wrong button. Where's my full cam? There we go. All right. So you're probably only seeing the top of the bar of full cam up there.
Yep.
As I said, one important thing is that full cam works on the basis of a model point, not an area. So that's why we can do it on Mallow, for example, straight away, because we only need one model point. So what you do for AC, and every method is a little bit different. For AC, you need one baseline file and one project file. And by subtracting the two, that's how you get the abatement, right? Baseline clearing, that's what would have happened. And project clearing, which is actually, so project scenario, should I say, which is no clearing, that's what would have happened between the two. Okay. So we're going to create, we've got 17 minutes. That should be way more than enough to create those two files, the baseline file, and then the project file, right? So you go new. Can you see it? What I'm doing?
Yep. Yep.
Okay, cool. So choose from template. You got the templates which are ready, and that's what's great with the way FullCam is set, that you don't have to touch the 26 million parameters that it does. The templates that have been set by the ARF do the whole work for you, and actually you shouldn't touch them, otherwise it's not eligible. So HIR and NFMR and avoided clearing methods, that's one template. So click on that. Then enter your latitude and longitude points. So the model point for AC needs to be within the boundaries of the CEA and roughly at the center of it. For our purpose today, I'm just going to take any point roughly in Mallow, but normally you should pick a point which is roughly at the center of the CEA and within the boundaries of the CEA, which, given the funny shapes of the CEAs at Mallow, is probably a little bit awkward. There are variations in yield of the sequestration depending on where you pick the point, so it's worth trying a few around the rough center. It does actually change a bit. So let's say we've got a -28 .6752 and 151.759. Okay, that's a model point. Then the start date of the baseline. So that's where it ties back to the clearing history. The start date of the project is the date of the last clearing. Okay, so in your case, the date of the last regeneration. So in your case, Andy, I think it was in 2017, so 31 of 12th, 2016. And the end date is 100 years, so 31st of December, 116. Okay. Goodie.
2116.
Yeah, because it works on yeah, you got to put in one day before. It works only on calendar years. Well, you can put it in different places, but the method requires you to start your project on the 1st of January of that year. So if we said the clearing was 2016, then your project modeling should start on the 1st of January of 2017. Sorry, if we've proven that the last regeneration happened in 2017, your modeling in FullCam should start on the 1st of January 2017. But because in the modeling actually starts one day later, you actually put the start point on the 31st of December. Yeah, that works.
Just to say that again. So your last clearing event was in 2017, Andy?
I said the wrong thing. Last regeneration event.
Last regeneration starts the year. Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah. Of one of the CEAs, I can't remember of both of them actually.
I thought you had 2116 there, that's all.
In what I put in FullCam?
I thought you put 2116 instead of 2016.
I did. I did, simply because of a quirk of FullCam that because it started the modeling one day after the date that you've opened. If you want to start the modeling on the 1st of January, you have to input the 31st of December 16.
Okay.
To start in 17.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So in that that's where you can control that little window is what's called your plot file. First thing you do is actually save it. So you go, no, sorry, that's not you. I'll save it there, but it's not, it's another project. I'll go. So that's your baseline scenario. So I'll call that baseline test mallow. All right, so save that file. Then you see all those little tabs at the top. The one that you have to touch is data builder. That's where it loads based on your model point and your timing. It loads all the database from FullCam. So you click into download spatial data, and you have to do that before every simulation because the data changes from time to time. Click, click, click,
Okay.
click, click, click. So it's downloaded all the species that you need to. That's it. Then the only other thing that you have to do is create events. So unsurprisingly in the event tab. For the baseline, because we have to create a number of events, you're using a regime editing, which allows you to create more than one event at the time. You'll see what I mean. So you create a new regime. You got the choices there, which is avoided clearing more than 500 mil rainfall. So that's your regime. You'll see what it creates based on that. It's got a template that says every so often you clear, burn everything, and replant. So that's what under your baseline, you would have done that every so often for the avoided clearing duration, right? You say under the baseline, my regime would have been to clear, burn, replant every so often. So from memory, Andy, the cycle for your from one of your series was 9 years. Is that correct? Can't remember what was your cycle. Let's assume it's 9 years. That's where you put the duration of your cycle.
Is that right, Andy? You use for clearing?
I thought the one with the regen of 2017, I thought was less than that.
It might have been. It must have been because 1726. No, that falls into the window. I know there was one that had a very, very short cycle, and the other one is slightly longer.
I think the one with regen of 2017 was might have only been a 4 year or.
Yeah. Okay. Let's try the 4 year cycle. Yeah. So we repeat that every 4 years. So okay. And the regime creates automatically all the events that underpin the FullCam simulation. So see, every 4 years it does plant, clear. It's not in order, but it says, okay, I plant trees at the beginning of the project, and 4 years later I clear it, and then I burn everything, and then 4 years later I plant trees. 1 year later I plant trees, I clear it. 4 years later, and I burn it, and I replant, etc., etc. So that would be your baseline. So basically, the assumption is that every 4 years you just do that, and that's what you've proven through your images. Okay. And that's the only thing you have to do for your baseline scenario. Then you go and simulate. You see you have a little checkbox here. You can say output to Excel or not. Of course, you want to output to Excel. So check that tick box and then run the plot simulation.
Okay.
And that's it. So it's done two things that I'm not sure whether you can see. It's opened the simulation window in FullCam, and it's also created an Excel in the background that you might not have seen because I'm not sharing. I'm only sharing the FullCam window. So that's it.
Yep.
So that's your baseline. That's what would have happened in terms of your carbon stock under the baseline scenario. All right. I'll share the Excel one as well, so that you can see what it looks like. Oh, I've never changed Oh no, I can do that. Oh, that's beauty. There you go. Can you see the Excel?
Yes, okay. Yep.
Right. So it's created an Excel that gives you every month under a very strange format, anyway, which is pain in the neck to convert. You got the mass of the mass of carbon in the trees, mass of carbon in the forest debris, and if we had included fire as an event, then you would have the methane and nitrous oxide emitted during those fire events. Right? That you can save.
And you can do fires under the regime as well, or do you have to do that as a separate event?
You can do fires under the regime, but not under the baseline. We'll do it under. So I'll put that as baseline mallow track. Baseline test mallow. I'm gonna have files. I don't know where they are. Everywhere, doesn't matter. So you save that because you'll need to import them later. You can close the Excel. I'll share back my full cam. So that's all you have to do with for the baseline. You've created your baseline carbon Excel. So you can close that plot now, that full cam plot. Save to file, yep. And that's it for the baseline. Simple as that. For the project, you should do exactly the same. New from template. Clearing method. Latitude minus 21.6. Of course, it's got to be the same. 6752 something. Longitude 151.766 something.
Might have just been accent, but I think you said 21 and then wrote 28 as the latitude, but I might have just.
Oh, sorry. Oh, no. It must have been. Oh. Yeah, no, I must have misspoke. That must be 29. Oh. Sorry, it wants me to finish that before 31st of the 12th, 7/16. And I'll correct that 6729.
The latitude I thought you said was minus 28, or was minus 21, but you've written it as minus 28.
Oh, sorry, no, 28. It's definitely 28. Sorry.
Okay,
sorry.
Good.
Yeah. And the end date is 31st of the 12th, 2016. Goodie. Crunching. Plot window. Save plot. So that's now not the baseline, but that it's a project scenario. Voila. Do the same. Data builder. Download spatial data. Done. Go to events. Now to your point, Rowan. So for the project scenario, then the only thing that you have to do is to create one event is that you plant trees at the beginning. So it's a tree planting event, which is here, right? You go, what species are you going to plant? You're going to plant native species regeneration 500 meter, for more than 500 millimeters rainfall. Instead, standard values. So it goes to the template and say what sort of species does that mean? And you've got one, plant trees, natural regeneration in natural regeneration system. That's the one you want to select. All right, because the other ones are riparian floodplain or land managed for environmental conservation. So you select this one. also insert the name, yes. And voila, you've created your tree planting event, which happens on the 1st of the 1st 2017. And that's it. Good. So you've created your event. So you've under the project scenario, what would have happened is the trees have started regeneration then, and that's it. And that's all you need to do. If you want to do with fire events, for example, you go to your events, new, forest fire, and then you have a number of events that you can include. It's not forest fire 100%, it's not a wildfire. What I usually, because we do cool burns, I select the wildfire trees not killed. Right, so you have a fire, but none of the trees are killed. Only it'll model only the debris going up in flame. Right. So that's how you model your fire events. And let's say it happens. Oops. Yes, name of standard event. Let's say it happened on, the 1st of the 1st, 2025. You decide to burn. That's it. Voila, you've got a fire event here. And you'll see what it does on the modeling. And that's it. Save your plot file.
Over the 100 years, would we be best to kind of model 10 separately, like for once every 10 years?
Yeah, there's a magic button here. I usually do them every 3 years, but pick whatever you want. There's a magic button, which is clone. So you can clone that event every 10 years. So you create one. I can show you actually. And number of times, etc. So you can clone that event instead of you inserting 20 of them. And then you go to simulate. Chunks. Bingo. Sorry.
Oh, Jesus, man, it's after 11. Supposed to be meeting with.
Okay, we're done. It's good. It's good because we're done.
Yes, that's true. Nice timing. Are amazing. Thank you for that.
No worries. And it's done the same. It's created an Excel on the side that you'll see in a different window you can save. And then you take those two Excels, dump them into the abatement model, and you've got your abatement.
Done. So good. Thank you. Better run. I'm late and it's my room.
I'll come and join you in a few minutes, Rowan. I'll just finish up here with Christoph and co. Hey, mate. Because we don't want to just hypothesize this, we actually want to get a full cam output that we can use for Mallow. Could we put in the proper fire event sequence? And Andy, what do you think you could realistically do? Is it every 6 years? Is it 10 years? Is it what's realistic?
The fire, well,
yeah.
There hasn't been a fire out in that country for as long as I can remember. So I don't know if you put it in for 10 years, I guess.
Well, I don't want to do that if it's unrealistic either. But I mean, we can't say in 100 years it won't go up. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Remember that,
exactly. So if it was once for the life of the project, or twice.
Remember, this is only for modeling. At the end of the day, when the project actually happens, you'll put what happens in reality. So this is just to have an estimate of what happens if you have a fire event. So let's put one in the middle, in 2060, and that's it. Okay. I usually model them every 3 years. Model them realistically, so that we have a realistic view of the actual abatement, and that's it. So I'll put one in 2060. Because you see the one that I put here, you can actually see it if you know it's in 2025 because it's so early in the regeneration it hasn't make a dent.
Yeah.
So
But
I'll
if you
put
put
one in
one in for
2000.
60, it'll look like a little M, won't it? It'll have like that pink line where for
Yeah.
debris will drop down to 0 again at 2060 and then back up again, you know.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And the trees as well drop down for some strange reason. Even if you say that they're not killed, probably that the leaves and twigs and stuff on them burn or something like that. So yeah. What I'll do, and the model point that I've picked here wasn't realistic. It was just where my mouse was on my QGIS. And I was rushing it for Rowan's benefit, but I'll redo them. I'll redo the baseline and the project scenario for one of the CEAs, the top CEA, the one at the top, Andy, and I'll send you those two files that you've got. Actually, this is reality for one of Andy's CEA.
Won't we need two? I'm sorry to be a pain, Christoph, but won't we need two in that one will be on each of the clearing cycles, so they'll have a different regeneration start date depending on their regeneration date for the CEAs that are linked to one regime versus the CEAs that are linked to the other regime?
You'll need to have another two done. The reason why I don't want to do it now because we don't have the final CEAs. So depending, and you remember it has to be roughly in the center, and the top CEA is stable. We know that it's always been around that.
Yep.
You know, fringe next to the cat B, so I can do this one. The other one we'll have to redo anyway when we have the final shape. So
okay, thank you.
Yeah, no worries. I can do one now, but
It said no. But going in the final, we will need two CEA baselines because they've got two different regeneration start dates, and the fire regimes can be the same for them both, and you know. Yeah.
You need one baseline and one project scenario for each CEA.
Okay.
Very cool.
All right. Well, it feels like we're moving like mud through this, but would you all be comfortable for me to do 9 o'clock next Thursday and we'll all check in and keep this project moving? Is that okay?
Yes, for me.
Appreciate your time on this. Andy, we are getting there. I promise you. It does feel like that stupid nursery book where there's one step forward or two steps forward, one step back, but we're slowly going.
Yeah. Right.
All right.
All righty. We'll see you all next week then.
Bye now.
Thanks.